I'm convinced that the company ZW has something against cables. Looking at their advancements over the past few years, it feels like they've been removing cable after cable. First came the all-in-one camera, which eliminated the need for separate connections between the main camera and the control system and the power supply, and then the separate guiding system as well. Then came the wirelessly connected mount, cutting even more cables. I used to wonder what the next step would be. What else could they possibly remove? The focuser seemed like an obvious target, but how do you remove cables from a device that still needs power? At EAF this year, they introduced their latest product, the EAF Pro, and with it, they've resolved exactly this. Their solution was simple but clever. They made it wirelessly controllable and added an internal battery. That means the focus motor is now completely standalone. You don't have to connect it to anything while in use. Just switch it on and it works for as long as the battery lasts. Today, I'll show you how easily I mounted it on my telescope, how it works, and we'll discuss the benefits and drawbacks it has. Let's get right into it. My name is Luca and you're watching the Space Koala. ZW has just released not one, but two new EAF models, the EAF-N and the EAF Pro. Mechanically and in terms of technical functionality, they are identical. Both are slightly improved versions of the original EAF. Most of their core features remain the same, though the new models are now slightly larger. More importantly, they offer a better reduction ratio. While the original EAF had a ratio of 120:1, the new models now have a 128:1 ratio. This means a modest improvement in resolution, which should lead to more accurate autofocus, especially on fast optical systems with relatively low resolution mechanical focusers. Beyond that, the two new models have one very large difference. The EAF-N is meant to replace the old EAF, updating the USB port to a more modern USB Type-C. On the other hand, the EAF Pro, which I have here, is designed to simplify cable-heavy setups by removing the need to connect any cables to the focuser. It comes with an integrated battery, making it a fully standalone device. In addition, it comes with two physical buttons that you can use to move the focuser without connecting it to any computer or other control system. The EAF-N retails for $149, while the EAF Pro can be ordered for $249. I have linked both of them below the video. Today, we're going to take a closer look at the EAF Pro that I have here. I'll be using it with the ASI 585MC Air camera, which supports the Bluetooth connection with the focuser. In the box, you get the EAF Pro body, a standard mounting bracket, a 2-meter USB to Type-C to Type-A cable, 2 hex wrenches, a set of flexible couplings to mount on various telescopes, a set of screws, a spacer, and of course, the instructions. You can also purchase additional accessories, just like with the old version, such as the temperature sensor and the hand controller. I'll show you how I installed it on my AskRV refractor. As you can see, I already had an EAF installed previously, so I just replaced it 1-to-1. To install it, simply remove the focusing knob from your focuser, mount the bracket to the screw hole at the bottom of your focuser, then attach the EAF to the side of the bracket. I recommend leaving all screws loose until everything is aligned and then tightening them all at once. This ensures there is no torque on the system and everything stays snug without putting unnecessary pressure on the focuser. Once we're done, it's time to connect. All I have to do is turn on the EAF. If you're not using an air camera and instead working with an external computer, make sure Bluetooth is enabled on your system and that you manually select the Bluetooth device to connect to it. On the ASI Air, I open the focusing options, select my device and choose to connect over Bluetooth. The app shows a list of available focusers. I select mine and click connect. At this point, the status indicator on the EAF Pro blinks alternately green and red and emits a continuous beeping sound. To confirm pairing, simply press the in or out button on the device. You only need to do it once. Once you're connected, it will also tell you the battery status of your EAF Pro. By the way, if you ever run into connection issues, you can easily reset the Bluetooth connection by pressing the in and out buttons at the same time for 5 seconds. This resets all connections on the EAF Pro. Once it's connected, it functions just like any other focus motor or the previous EAF, except of course it's all wireless. I'll show you a V-curve I ran on the stars while I was imaging over the past few days. After multiple nights of imaging, I can now share my thoughts and experience, and not necessarily whether it's worth it or not, but rather a breakdown of what I see as the key benefits and drawbacks. Let's start with the obvious. Fewer cables means fewer failure points, especially when you're rotating your camera, especially if you're using a motorized rotator while you're away. Those extra moving parts always increase the risk of cable drag or strain. Second, I think having wireless connectivity as an option is just inherently useful. I'll be honest, when ZWO first introduced wireless connections with the original Air camera and the AM3 mount, I was skeptical. I didn't think it would be reliable enough. But during the 9 months since then, I've used the AM3 wirelessly and I've never had a single issue. It runs on Bluetooth, not Wi-Fi, which makes it very stable and low power. And that's exactly what my experience has been with the EAF Pro 2. Third, the physical buttons. Having the manual in-out buttons is incredibly convenient in a few specific situations. When I've just mounted a new setup and I am way off focus, if I see big blurry stars in the preview, I can just press the button until I'm close enough for autofocus to kick in. When I'm traveling and my telescope is stored away nicely in a snugly padded case, more than once I've packed everything up in the morning only to realize the focuser was still extended and the scope wouldn't fit back in the case, so I had to reconnect everything, move the focuser, and then tear it down again. Now I can just power on the EAF, retract the focuser, and pack it up. Much easier. For the occasional visual use of a telescope that you otherwise mainly use for photography, you don't want to dismantle the whole focus motor just for a night of visual observation, but it's just much more convenient to be able to focus directly. One last very niche use case where it can truly shine. If you're using a system like a RASA with an Air camera, normally that would mean a tangle of cables coming from the camera to the mount and to the focuser, and all that dangling in the case of this tube and camera is in front of the optics. Using wireless connections, you can reduce all of that to a single cable powering the camera, and that's it. With so many benefits, what are the drawbacks then? You might expect me to say something about the battery running out, but I actually don't consider that a drawback. The worst case scenario is that you have to connect it via cable, exactly what you would do with a regular EAF anyway. So I'd describe this more as a normal EAF with an optional wireless mode, which is a bonus, not a must. You can ask how long the battery actually lasts. So I tested it. During my testing, it went from 100% to empty after 4 nights of use. I had a tiny bit remaining, but I mean, of course, I charged it. But yeah, all of this will also depend on how often you refocus. In any case, as long as you've got the cable handy, it's never going to be a real issue. If not the battery, then what is the downside? Of course, it is the price. You're paying extra for the added convenience, which is only worth it if you're going to make use of it. If you're looking for the most lightweight, easy to set up, quick rig like this one, this could be very beneficial. On the other hand, if you have a fixed telescope, or especially if it's a remote one, there's zero benefit to using the Pro focuser. You would not benefit from the battery or the wireless connection anyway. And then when it comes to the physical buttons, you shouldn't expect them to replace the hand controller in full. During high-resolution planetary or lunar imaging, I don't recommend using the buttons for precise focus. At those long focal lengths like 6,000 to 8,000 millimeters, any physical connection will cause vibration, making it impossible to nail critical focus by hand. For that, I still suggest using the EAF hand controller, which, by the way, is fully compatible with the new EAF Pro. My overall conclusion is I think it is very cool that ZWO has removed yet another cable. The whole setup looks and feels minimal, wireless, and modern. It isn't something that makes sense for everyone, though. I recommend it for users of air cameras who move their rig a lot. Let me know in the comments what you think about this new device and what you think the next cable ZWO might eliminate could be. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the upcoming new moon, and I wish you less wind than this and clear skies.